Something big is happening in Panthea. If you look closely, the winds of change are beginning to blow. But is that our story? Or are we simply going to be observing from afar? That remains to be seen. For now, though, it's just us and this stranger right here. Welcome to the Divine Deception. Good. Very good. Very good indeed. For a minute there, I was worried I had set this up wrong. Alright then. Guess we can get started. Welcome, reader. Glad to have you here. Who are you? Why, that is a good question, isn't it? Who exactly am I in all this? I'm afraid I don't have a good answer for you on that front. Who I am is a long and sordid story, one completely disconnected from the one we're here to tell. We shouldn't get bogged down in such details so early. But you have a point. It'd be for the best if you had something to call me. Let's see then. What should you call me? Alright, let's keep things straightforward. You could just call me the narrator. How does that sound? Oh wow. Is it a bit impersonal for a name? You know what? You're absolutely right. So then, how about we go with easy then? How does that sound to you? I get the feeling I don't have much of a choice in that matter. Oh, aren't you the clever one? I'm going to have fun here, I can just tell. Anyways, now that we've got that settled, we should move on. There's a lot of ground to cover after all. As much as I love small talk, it'd be irresponsible to engage in it at a time like this. Well, not that I'm opposed to being irresponsible, but I digress. What is this? This? What you're experiencing right now? How to put it? No, the more I think about it, the more I realize I shouldn't tell you. I mean, explaining everything would be a whole other story, and again, that's not the one that we're here to tell. Honestly, probably be for the best if you just forgot about all this. Who I am, what this is. You won't find answers to those questions, not in this tale. So just relax and accept it. All that matters is that you're going to experience a story, and I'm here to help guide you through it. Okay? I want answers. Alright, you always were an inquisitive type, right? Too curious for your own good. Well, tough shit, friend. You're going to have to accept that you won't always get answers. Who knows, this could be a good learning experience for you. Let's just move on. Tonight's story is one of immense drama. It's the story of a city, a story of change, a story of mortal gods. There's death, violence, betrayal, gambling, above all else, deception. There will be sadness, anger, elation, surprise. There will be. No, this isn't right. I can describe how intense the story will be all I want, still won't properly capture that feeling. What's the problem here? I'm gonna get you to truly delve into this story the way you must. Oh. Right, duh. It's obvious, isn't it? Like it can't just be a story, can it? That's not enough for you. What you need is a game. No, that's not quite right. A gamble. This needs to be a gamble. I mean, I've played plenty of straight up stories in my time on this channel, but I will take a gamble. Yes. Yes. Inspiration, it's flowing through me. This is the way to go, I can just feel it. Alright, let's make this little tale into a gamble. How do we do that? Well, to start with, you can't gamble if you don't have anything. And in the state you're currently in, you don't even have a form much less something you'd want to bet. Let me just fix that. Oh, 20 chips gained. There you go. I just gave you 20 chips. You can use that to gamble. With those chips, I'll let you make bets. Bets on what, you ask? Why, the very story we'll be going through. You can bet on certain outcomes, and then when they're proven right, you'll double the amount of chips you bet. Of course, if they're proven wrong, don't count on getting those chips back. But hey, that's gambling, baby. Oh, and I'll also scatter in plenty of opportunities to make more chips in the story itself. Gotta keep this chip economy flowing if you want to really have fun. To top it all off, prizes. Right, because of course it's not gambling unless you can win something. Once we're finished with the story, I'll open up a prize counter. Use the chips you've won to buy all sorts of extras and goodies and the like. Well, how does that sound? It's a lot more fun like this, right? Absolutely. Right. Yeah, this is going to be good. In fact, let's start betting already. That's right, the casino's already open. Wait, I don't know literally anything about the story at this point. So, gambling's all about not knowing the outcome. Then for the first bet, let's go big. The story we're about to go through. Do you think it'll have a happy ending? Since you're not telling me the amount that I'm betting, you only give me one save file. You do only have one save file, right? Yeah, wow. You can see right away that this is definitely meant to be played straight through without saves coming. No, I don't think it'll have a happy ending. Realist, huh? Mainly because I love bad endings. If this has bad endings, guarantee I'm going to be getting a lot of bad endings and, losing my chips. So I may as well hedge my bet here. I like it. Alright, now you have to pick how many chips you're going to bet. I've been thinking about it. You're not going to get the payout for this bet until literally the very end, huh? Betting big now, if you get it right, might be a mistake. You'll be separated from gambling funds. That is a problem. Well, like I said, you'll be able to earn chips all throughout the story proper. But still, it feels like this should be considered somehow. Alright, how about this? Payout on this bet is doubled. That's right, if you get this one correct, you won't get twice the chips back you bet back. You'll get 4 times the amount. It'll just sweeten the pot a tad, So with that in mind, make your wager. Bet. Awesome. First bet in the books. And right now your chip count is at 5. Don't worry, I'm sure chips will be flowing out of your hypothetical pockets in no time. Alright, that's that for the setup, I suppose. Onto the card stacks. Choose a stack, choose a card, finish the card. The next one in that stack is dealt. Bada bing, bada boom. It's pretty simple. Complete those 7 stacks, and then maybe we see what happens from there. I want a tip. If you want my opinion, I'd spread out your time amongst the stacks instead of focusing on any 1 or 2 in particular. Move through them at a somewhat even pace, and I think it'll be a more entertaining experience. Or don't, I don't care, I'm not your mom. You're not my mama. It's really only one restriction to how you move through the cards. Some of them have these pesky little locks, you see. If you want to unlock these locks, you have to find a key of the matching level. Keys can be collected by completing cards. Basically, if you run into a roadblock, try a different stack. I would only use one use per key. And knowing I know, but trust me, it's better this way. It said keys are tied to specific levels. Is it completely 1-to-1 though? Like 1 key per 1 lock? Or like, can you get a key of the level you need to unlock it in multiple places? Alright, and you're off. Oh wow. Here we got chips. Bronze, silver, gold, emerald? What is this? Deduction difficulty. Fighting difficulty, oh no. Logic difficulty. Hacking difficulty. Where does this take us? What happens if we hit this? Oh, I just get quits? Okay. So we have magnifying glass, dice, fist, computer, hacker, gun, mask. Interesting. I think let's just start left to right, go counterclockwise for our first go. Jacob's Ladder. Walking through a forest trail in the dead of night is certainly a unique experience. It's one that inevitably fills you with a certain amount of dread. Especially if that forest is in Panthea, an incredibly dangerous place. Especially if there are plenty of people who would rightfully want you dead. Well, that's it. Even the most logical of people would have a tricky time with such a trek. You could be as aware as the next person that ghosts and ghouls don't exist, when left with nothing but a flashlight, your thoughts, and the shapes of the trees make. You can't help but see faces. The trick is to disconnect your mind from your emotions. Those faces might scare my emotions, but so long as there's a disconnect, that won't stop my legs from continuing the walk. Nothing can dissuade me from walking until I reach my destination. Oh god. I wonder why, if it's such a frightful experience, I would even bother to walk this far. Took a taxi up at the forest's edge. Why not continue the drive to my destination? People attending my destination weren't the type to go places that they'd have to hike to. There were a number of reasons. For one, as spooky as it might be, I liked the atmosphere these sorts of walks cultivated. The quiet, cool silence was entrancing. It felt empty. Perfect for thinking. There was a lot to be thinking about. I was in no rush to the crime scene. It was already quite late. And I was okay with that. Private investigators should always be fashionably late. The grunt cops do the legwork, arrive at the time to hear the evidence, and then take the glory of solving the case for yourself. So a leisurely stroll felt appropriate. It gave me time to really consider the location I was heading towards. The geography of Panthea really highlighted the class system prevalent everywhere you went. Panthea was a city by a seaside. Most of Panthea was an urban jungle, cram-packed to the brim. And yet Panthea also housed an expansive forest in its border. A forest with mansions and buildings and facilities with plenty of room between each other, reserved for those who can pay the steep price such accommodations cost. The one small grace of this forest trip is that it assured that the victim, and most likely the murderer, would be one familiar with the forest facilities. Eventually I reached my destination. Looks very lodge-like. There are plenty of cars parked outside the facility. Fancy cars. Police cars. Unfamiliar, dingy car parked haphazardly away from all the others. Feels more stylistic background than the real... You stop that. Than the real photo background style of the Zodiac Trial. Yes, I didn't mention it at the beginning. But if you're familiar with it, you probably know well enough. I didn't mention it at the beginning because I was originally going to wait for a title drop of the like. Getting right into it. So this is The Divine Deception by Themis, the creator of the Zodiac Trial, which was a pretty big game. It's a pretty great game, I'd say. So, by every intention, this game is completely disconnected from that world of the Zodiac Trial. This is very much its own story. As you can see from the outset, the framing device is quite interesting, though, I'd say. one that's going to directly interact with us. At many points. I let out a sigh. This could only mean one thing. Sure enough, Kane stood outside, irritatedly smoking by the entrance. His ill-kempt hair due to his raggedy coat. He was a distinctive figure, to say the least. Clearly he had been kept out of the crime scene, at least for now. Thank God for small miracles. As I approached, he soon spotted me. With that flash of recognition, a small smirk crossed his face. He reached into his pocket and grabbed a recorder. Here we go. Hey there, Laverna, right? Ain't you a sight for sore eyes? And sore eyes you most certainly have, Kane. Oh, what did I ever do to deserve your barbs? By the coverage of cases I work, you know. Yeah? So what's the issue? I figure I gave some pretty good advertising, don't you think? Well, I suppose I can't fault you on that front. How in the blazes are you even here? No reporters tend to flock to tragedy like trees approach the sun. But even still, to appear before myself. Impressive. What can I say? I got connections. When a crime happens, some people call the police, some people make money. I'm not surprised I made it here before you. I'm surprised you're here at all. I know the police can work with private investigators, but usually not on high-profile murder cases. Is Panthea's force so desperate they need to consult for all their cases? Is that how you intend to spin my presence? Hey, if the shoe fits, you dig? Whatever it takes to prevent the blame from falling on the current administration. Whoa, hey, them's fighting words. Calling a journalist biased is tantamount to a direct insult, you know? Ah, so is the Oracle still intending to charade as unbiased? So, for the record, it seems like you have some issue with Governor Aija's administration. Care to expand on that? On the record. I have no issue with Miss Aija. Simply think it weak that every opinion you intend to push upholds whatever the status quo dictates. Well, you know how it is. Objects in motion at all. Is that so? I well wonder how you intend to score this incident to the administration's tune. Are you kidding me? Some low-life terrorist decides to assassinate a guest of Governor Aija's? This is prime-time sympathy fuel. And you're well aware that the murderer is also someone else connected to Miss Aija. Well, that remains to be seen. Is that the story you're running with? Prefer not to parrot what others say. Only what I behold myself can pronounce as the truth. That's so. All I gotta say is good luck getting in. I'm sure it won't be a problem. I'm expected. Oh man, really? They're really gonna let someone unknown like you in? While they restricted one of Panthea's most familiar faces from the scene? Familiar does not mean liked. Oh? You hold yourself in that much esteem? That certainly is news to me. Just because people know who you are, Kane, doesn't mean that people actually like and respect you. Are you kidding me? You know what keeps the world turning, Sherlock? Information. Who has it? Who doesn't? Who you know? Who will speak to you? How you spread it? Can't exactly argue with you on that. When you look at it like that, I'd say I'm the most powerful person in all Panthea. Huh. If nothing else, I always respect audacity. Perhaps we've more in common than I first thought. However, the first act of the story awaits me, and I ought to grant it a conclusion. If you're hounding an interview, at least let me acquire a look at the scene first. Go right ahead, miss. The mocking bow, Kane stepped aside, took the expression in stride, and confidently entered the venue. They pushed open the doors, entering a completely different world. A bright, opulent, crowded world. One packed with fancily dressed citizens, the occasional police officers scattered amongst them. It was a world of grand gestures, and so I may as well play the part. The detective has arrived. Oh, fucking hell. Seriously? Initially, I was greeted with a less than friendly face. Balding, weaselly officer with a nervous, fidgeted, and annoyed look was set. We've been acquainted a few times before now. Ah, Seth. Fancy running into you here. Seriously, who invited her? It's a murder investigation. We don't let third parties in. Oh, come off it, Seth. The sound of things you need a helping hand. We need jack shit. It's been hours. There's no indication that we won't be able to handle this ourselves. So you say. But then again, men say many different things in their lives. Some true, some false. Between the two, it can be difficult to differentiate until far into the future. That doesn't. Before Seth could object, a louder voice interrupted. Ev! Oh, hello. You're a coded friend already, Baldera. The peeping officer approached me directly, and before I could object, she came in for a hug. I had no choice but to reciprocate. When she let go, I was left wondering how close she thought we were. We really hadn't known each other for that long, only in official capacity. I doubted having her on my side couldn't hurt. You're looking real lovely as usual. Ah, Baldera, how you falsely flatter me. Falsely? Not a chance. Really, I love your outfit. It really compliments your gray eyes, makes them pop. Yeah, speaking of your outfit, is this really appropriate for this sort of scene? Most private eyes I've met don't wear high heels. Oh, come off it, Seth. She looks proper official, at least official enough. Seth was right. My clothing was appropriately garish. It's certainly not the sort of thing I'd wear in my free time. Dressing to the room. But for this role, it would work well enough. Baldera, Seth, as much as I cherish your company, I did not come to discuss fashion. Though I've many opinions on the topic. No, I do believe Baldera has called a certain drastic crime to my attention. Sure enough, a mere glance to the left made it clear why the police were here. Couldn't get a good look from this angle, but it was pretty clear that an old man had collapsed on the floor. Must be the victim. Yeah, about that. Baldera, why did you call Laverna here? You know, my mother always said the more the merrier. And two heads are better than one, yes, but also there's a reason we don't let civilians help with our investigations. Laverna's not a civilian, she's a private investigator. You know as well as I do she's useful to have around. You saw the work she made the last few cases she consulted on. Baldera brought up a compelling point. Oh, here's a familiar track. Looking at it empirically, I was a good investigator. That was perhaps my greatest leverage in this situation. Despite that natural skill, it still was something of a surprise to myself that I ended up in this situation. I mean, I always knew I was bright. At a young age, I scored pretty high on intelligence tests. Got the hang of things far faster than my classmates and peers. I can still clearly remember how proud I made my parents back then. We were never really a wealthy family. Middle class at best. But at my pace, it looked like I was going to be able to get a scholarship to a really good college. I had passions when I was young as well. I remember my first real investigation. It began when I was still a teenager. Far too early. Still, I felt compelled to try my best. The police had already given up on the case. Hearing that, you might think that that's a sign to give up. But to me, that just signaled that it was even more important that I try myself. And sure enough, my investigation techniques got far further than the police could ever have hoped for. Despite the grim circumstances, I found my first investigation, well, to be frank, enjoyable. It was exciting, making progress in ways that nobody thought that I'd be able to. Eventually, my investigation succeeded. I had found the true culprit. I had done what I set out to accomplish. By all accounts, this should be a successful origin story. However, I want to make a long story short. The affairs being wrapped up neatly when the truth is revealed is the realm of fiction. The ugly conclusion of that first investigation turned me away from the practice pretty severely. I really intended to give up my ambitions of being a private investigator then and there. But, well, maybe at my core it just fueled my intolerance toward injustice. The end of that story was quite vague, but feeling it gives me something akin to when it's wrapped up nice and cleanly, the culprit is identified, and then they go to jail. So I imagine that at some point in the justice system, things broke down and the culprit did not get punished. Because here I was, private investigator of Panthea, the police's service. And there was Governor Ija, highest authority in the city, approaching me with a strained look on her face. Oh, hello. Greetings. As she approached, Baldera immediately stood to attention. Governor Ija, ma'am. Pleased to be serving you. Officer Baldera, was it? Thank you, really. I'm glad to have such reliable members of our city's esteemed police force at my aid. Truly, it moves me to see Panthea's justice in action. Ija turned back to me. Speaking of, I don't believe I recognize you as one of our city's police officers. That's because she's not. Laverna Smith, police private investigator. Pleasure to be of service. I extended my hand, and Ija graciously shook it. Charmed. You're here to help investigate, I imagine. I wouldn't be a particularly good investigator if I didn't, no? I suppose not. She turned to Baldera. I suppose I'm just confused. Last I checked, I didn't remember it being standard protocol for the police to rely on third-party investigators, especially this early on. That's because it's not, ma'am. Oh, is that so? Then, is Miss Laverna's presence some sort of reflection of your faith and your ability to solve this case? Baldera seemed to shrink under Governor Ija's gaze. Seth watched this interaction, then sighed. Actually, ma'am, it really isn't that uncommon. I mean, we don't like to advertise it so as not to give every justice-seeking wannabe knocking at our door. But restricting ourselves to just members of the force can be restricting. Really, working with trusted investigators, not affiliated directly with the force, is pretty common practice. So then, is Miss Laverna a trusted third party? I noticed. Seth visibly grinding his teeth. Well, I guess I'd have to say so. I'm feeling Seth coming to Baldera's defense more than ours. In this. And of course, it's not like we're just gonna let her go willy-nilly. Promise that I personally will make sure she's kept on a careful watch. Just to make sure. At this, there was a pause in the conversation. The sound of Ija strumming her fingers across her other arm seemed to fill the entire room. Then she spoke up. Wonderful. Of course, I don't intend to come across as though I'm questioning your process. I was just curious about how these things are done. I'm so busy with my job, I rarely get to see these aspects of your work. Well then, don't let me bother you. Go on and catch a criminal. On behalf of dear Mr. Anthem, we'll be sure to do just that, ma'am. Baldera saluted Ija, which seemed unnecessary, but Ija apparently appreciated it. With a small nod, Ija departed the scene. At her departure, I saw Seth visibly deflate. Well, I guess that's settled then. Don't do anything stupid, Laverna. I'll be watching over you. Being stupid is simply antithetical to my nature. Seth gave me a pretty dirty look, but I made sure not to give any sign that I had noticed it. I was just happy to get the go-ahead to investigate. Now then, we've wasted enough time. Delay any longer, the criminal will be able to slip out of our grasp. Luckily, that's not one of our concerns. Oh? Do tell. Yeah, do tell. You're the one who brought Laverna in. It's your job to deal with filling her in. Sure, not a problem with that at all. So then let me give you a rundown of the crime. As I'm sure you're aware, the crime scene was this fundraising gala for Governor Ija's re-election. Most of the folks invited to this place are real fancy-like. Not the type to go around committing murder like this. That's the way to look at it. You disagree, Seth? Well, I see it. It's the people at the top that have a lot more to lose. Sure, but that doesn't mean they'd actually do a freaking murder themselves. It's uncharacteristic. Maybe. Anyway, this gala's got a real strict guest list. believe it was organized by Aisha's secretary, Mr. Gani. I hired 9 waiters and a small kitchen staff. Looked around, noting the various identical-looking figures wearing tuxedos and plain white masks? I presume the staff are the masked ones? Exactly. One whose broad idea that was. I like it. Adds a sense of, I don't know, class to the whole affair. Depends on your definition of class. Definition of class is being waited on hand and foot by faceless servants, then yeah. Makes it creepy more like. Whole thing is an elitist, eyes wide shut kind of a type vibe. Yeah, I agree. I had to agree with Seth. Making your staff wear identical disguises can hardly be described as good taste. It's a matter of elegance, Seth. Ambiance is important. You're telling me. Thank you, Lav. Anyway, the staff set up the party, and then the guests came in. There's only one entrance to this venue. People were ID'd pretty heavily when walking in, so we can eliminate any unknown entities as suspects. You can, assuming your statements hold true. However, the rogue unfounded axiom is the murderer's shield. Can we truly ascertain that there are no secret passages to the building? Rogue panelings, hidden tunnels? I heard Seth let out a nervous chuckle. Well, you know, we can check that stuff later. For now, let's just go over the case summary, okay? So then the victim, Mr. Athen. He was a rich old man, a business person in his prime. Shrewd, insightful, and influential. He was a wrinkled bat clinging to life. I like you, Seth. Seth! Hey, it's true, alright. He doesn't have any living relatives left. He doesn't have any close friends. He lived alone, doing nothing but playing Moneyball by himself. Investing his hoard of cash into whatever he likes. He got a handful of years left, none of them important. Damn, Seth, I like you. Seth! Am I wrong? It's a thing called common decency. It's not right to speak ill of the dead. Look, it's not pretty, but it's relevant to know. Makes the motive of this whole thing seem really hard to figure out. Motive? Seth, didn't we already decide that it's probably... Hey, whoa. Seth's face flushed with annoyance. Really? Really, Voltaire? Well, I made this perfectly clear. Hey, calm down. Don't get your knickers in a twist. I caught myself. No, I caught you. It's clear that the two were having a conversation that I was completely exempt from. That annoyed me more than I cared to admit, but making a fuss about it now wouldn't be productive. The motives of murderers are mysterious. They can often be buried in deep and private histories impossible for the passing eye to see. An amateur would rely on such a shallow thing to catch a culprit. Really? You're going to call most police forces across the globe amateur, because that's what you're doing. If the shoe fits. Relying on motives to reach the truth is like pulling the audience. It's like pulling the audience as a hint in a game show. Perhaps it shall lead you to the right track, but it is far from certain, only to bring you in line with the common man. I am everything but. You're telling me. Besides, any murder mystery half worth its salt gives all the suspects a worthwhile enough motive. She's not wrong. At the very least, it's worth noting that Athen was a considerable donor to Governor Aisha. Not in her interest to cut off such a major revenue source. So approaching it from the opposite direction, killing him deals a decent blow to Aisha's campaign. Fortunately, all our suspects should be supporting Aisha. Theory, that is. In theory. So then at a certain point, all the lights in the building went out. The darkness most foul overtook the area. Aren't you one for drama, Laverna? Yeah, pretty much. Eventually, one of the waiters was able to get the lights back on. You can only guess what happened. Our victim had become our victim. It's really sad. You're right, Mr. Athen was on the ground, collapsed. When he was rolled over, a rag doused in something was found under his body. Forensics is still doing their thing, but we can pretty safely guess that this was the murder instrument. Ah, poison. It seems we're dealing with an experienced snake, not some novice worm. Right, this was premeditated. Snake, eh? Anyway, when the light was out, nobody could have escaped the venue. One of the waiters was standing right by the entrance when the lights went out. They've testified that in the panic, they backed up to into the front door and didn't open until the lights turned back on. Of course, after the lights were on, nobody was permitted to leave until we arrived. I could listen to the cops just explain the scene for as long as I wanted, but that wouldn't get me any further than them. At some point, I needed to begin investigating for myself. I took a step towards the body. The sight of the corpse was slightly unnerving. Just as I had blustered, my experience with dead bodies was pretty few and far between. At the very least, there was no blood or gore to freak me out with this one. You could mistake Athens' stillness for deep sleep. The only thing frightening about this sight was how it made you question your own mortality. Well, time to get to work. Mr. Athen, pleased to be working with you. Reached down and grabbed the body's cold hand. With some resistance, I shook his hand, as you would when meeting anybody. Lav!
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is why we don't bring in third parties.
Putting on an annoyed expression, I turned to those two. Relax, I'm wearing gloves, you pansies. Because I think that moving his arm a bit will cover up. Remember, the body was already jostled when he was flipped over. Still, it's a matter of protocol.
We're well past that point.
I turned back towards the body. So then, Mr. Athen, could you please testify as to your killer? I grabbed the body's mouth and began to puppet it as I replied to myself in a raspy voice.
Foolish child. It's pitch black. You expect me to have any answers for you?
You are really extra.
If I knew who killed me, I'd have said so already.
Well, you have me there, sir. Oh my god. It was at this point I started to become aware of the numerous stares that I was beginning to attract from the party guests. Good. Fine. Relevant. This was a little thing called commitment, a concept far too people really understood.
Is this part of your process?
Always. Seth brought up a good point. It was time to do some actual detective work. Get the body once over, looking for anything unusual. My eyes first spotted a rag atop the body. This must have been the suspected murder weapon they were talking about. Looking close, it seemed as though a bit of the rag was caught in Athens' front pocket. Did it get like that when the body was rolled over? Or... I kept looking around Athens' body in case there was anything else relevant. On his left shoulder, I saw a stain. It had been dried off with a towel or something, but you could definitely make it out. Something light yellow had spilled on him at this area. I moved over to it and gave it a tentative sniff.
Oh, Jesus.
As I expected. Wine. Was anybody near Mr. Athen before the lights went out?
No. So as I said, he doesn't have anybody in his life. He came alone.
I really feel bad for this old man. Not only was he alone, he decided to sit by himself in the corner of the room. Well, that doesn't just bring a tear to your eye. True, it does seem like a waste. Exuberant party like this? Or gala, I suppose. It's time and a place to make memories. Not to waste away becoming a victim to time. Well, in Athens' case, a victim to time among other things. Make memories. By golly, I think I'm onto something. Seth, Lav, you two stay here. I'm going to follow up on my big breakthrough. Okay. Unless you're checking photos and stuff. Before Seth could get in a word edgewise, which he was almost certain to do, Baldera took off. This left Seth in a grumbling mood.
I want to keep playing babysitter.
Pep up, Seth. I've still got questions that need answers.
No, then please ask away.
So this man was by himself. So what? Surely somebody could have been looking in his direction, no?
Well, I doubt it.
And why is that?
Apparently, a big fight broke out right before the lights went out. That drew a lot of attention. And Polly Brad, one of the Daysma siblings, had a huge screaming match with some ex.
How garish.
Yeah, sounds like the one thing that might have made this whole shit show interesting. Besides the murder.
Indeed. Timing on that seemed a little too convenient. Made sure to table that under the follow-up column in my brain. What about the blackout? Surely that cannot be a completely unexplained phenomenon.
If you're asking what's the deal with the lights shutting off, then I got an answer for you. The panel on the board of it was messed with. It can be direct sabotage, but again, these are early days. I need to get forensics on this. You want to check it out yourself?
Soon enough. Not quite yet, however.
Great.
As I asked these questions, I continued to examine the corpse's site. There were some more notable objects to be found by simply zooming out a touch. Nearby the corpse was a broken wine glass. Red wine was splashed all over the floor around it. Incredibly important discovery. But perhaps even more important was the crumpled up sheet of paper under the nearby table. Gingerly, I reached over and picked it up. As I unfolded it, I noticed that the sheet had already been unfolded once. Looks like the cops already found this piece of evidence and placed it back down. Why then would they not mention it to me? I expected the paper to house some deep, dark secret. However, it looked to be a torn-out page of the Bible. A page from the Book of Psalms, to be exact. On the page, a specific quote was highlighted in orange. Let everything that has breath praise the Lord. Huh. Bit on the nose, huh? With a questioning gaze, I turned to Seth. What do you make of this piece of evidence?
It's a Bible page, isn't it?
That much a child could deduce. I'm inquiring you because, for whatever reason, you thought it prudent to not inform me of this little page.
I just wanted to test your detective skills.
Seth wasn't even trying to hide the fact that he wasn't making eye contact. Looked like it was up to me to push the issue further. Well, let me demonstrate my skills. Not only did you hide this piece of evidence from me, so did Baldera. If it was a decision only one of you made, the other would have chipped in earlier. Thus, you must have discussed withholding this piece of evidence previously. Continuing down that road, if the discussion you had previously pertains to motive. So then, does this verse somehow pertain to the motive?
Laverna, I think you're getting a bit ahead of yourself.
If I could say more, one of the officers that had been talking with the guests approached. Recognized her. Pandora, if I remembered right. Hey, Seth, I finished taking those witness statements you asked for. Oh, Laverna, surprised to see you here. You're also going to be helping us with the Cock Robin murders. What? Cock Robin murders?
God damn it, Pandora.
Huh?
Go.
Without another word, Pandora scurried away. Confused, but sure enough that she somehow screwed up. Seth began to massage his burning red forehead, barely containing his anger. After a few more choice curse words, he began to pace back and forth. Finally, he turned to me.
Alright, okay. Fuck. To tell anyone about this, okay? Definitely not going to tell my boss that I told you. I'm telling you this because I know you'll be even more of a pain in my ass than usual if I don't.
Believe me, I am well versed in secrecy.
Laverna?
Seth, I swear. I get it. I promise I won't tell a soul about this. I looked him straight in the eyes. Seth proceeded to pace back and forth a few more times before taking a deep breath and beginning to talk.
So I'm just going to make a long story short, okay? And you're not going to ask any questions. You're going to listen and nod. When I finish explaining, you're going to move on. A while ago, we found a dead body. Find them all the time. The thing, though, is that this one was shot with a bow and arrow. It's not what killed them. This was done post-mortem.
Who killed Cock Robin? I said the sparrow, with my bow and arrow.
You're familiar, then? Good, that'll make this quicker. Before too long, we found another corpse. This one had its eye removed post-mortem.
Who killed Cock Robin? I said the fly. With my little teeny eye, I saw him die.
Okay, we don't need your running commentary on this.
No, it's actually very helpful, Seth. Thank you.
You get the point, right? Soon enough, we found that these post-mortem additions were following the poem. It suggests that they're all the same killer.
I'm sensing a but.
Well, there's some issues with that theory. One, the victims seem to be all different types. A fair few have been influential. Many more are nobodies. These deaths just seem random.
Very well then, it's the serial killer's doing.
That's what we thought until recently. We actually caught the killer. At least a killer. No, he couldn't have done most of the other murders. Claims he didn't even know that the body was altered post-mortem.
A killer who alters the bodies of other killers' victims? Interesting twist.
The chief thinks that we got the wrong guy. But maybe I'm not the best officer, but the evidence I found against the guy was strong. Definitely was the killer in that instance. Definitely wasn't in any of the other instances. Naturally, if you haven't let the trend out as public knowledge. Of course not. Standard serial killer procedure.
So then, judging by the poem, you're up to the thrush?
Yeah. That's a lot of victims. Yeah.
You really should have caught this person before now.
Yeah.
Well, fret not. You made the wise decision to bring me into your fold. I shall now catch this dastard post-haste.
No, just like that, huh? Relax, would you? We don't even know if this is the work of the Cock Robin killer. For one, the connection here is loose. More to the point, there's but so many people who could have killed Mr. Athen. It's completely against pattern and for good reason. The Cock Robin killer really is somebody in here. Thorough investigation and cross-reference with past records will find him. So it'd be suicide for him.
Seth made a solid point. The Cock Robin killer. This was certainly a major puzzle piece. Not for the mystery of Athens' killer, but for the mystery of Panthea. I filed that away for later. Very well then. On to more thorough investigations. I crossed the room with Seth following in my stead, visibly annoyed. First person I needed to question was quite apparent. An argument that dwarfs draws the whole room's attention just happens to occur right before the lights went out. That's a bit too good to be true. My experience, if things are too good to be true, then they're often not. I approached Polydesma, the person who apparently started the argument. It wasn't hard to spot him out. Next to his brother and his father, he stood out like a sore thumb. Swayed like one, too. Oh no. Polydesma, I presume. Can I do my best Tommy Wiseau voice? Yeah, you got it. And what's your name, cutie?
Oh, that's not good. Really, dude, hitting on an investigator.
I did not hit her. I did not hit on her. I did not. Laverna, charmed to be of your assistance. I held up my hand, and with little hesitation, the man sloppily reached out to shake it. This just further confirmed what I already suspected. This guy was buzzed out of his mind. Oh, hi, Seth. That was fine by my books. Drunks tended to make my job easier. If it wouldn't be too much trouble, I'd like to get your insight on a certain incident. I heard you got into a little spat earlier. Mind giving some insight on that? Instantly, Polly's face soured. How the hell is that my fault? Never said it was. Well, you'd be the first. I just want to get an understanding as to how things played out. How they played out is quite plain and simple. That bitch texted me and started stirring some trust shit up, and that's just not true. And then, when I called her out, she had the gall to play dumb and pretend like she hadn't texted it. It's on my fucking phone, honey. Piss poor job of playing dumb. I do not have a good Tommy Wiseau voice. This voice is evolving into something else entirely. I was quickly losing interest in this line of inquiry. I didn't love the attention I was beginning to accrue.
So, think this is a key line of investigation?
I'm beginning to suspect not.
I'm just saying, if you're gonna stir shit, let's say it to my face. At least cop to it, my god. But apparently I'm the embarrassment here. I'm the family disgrace.
I think there might be a bit more here to unpack than I was planning on.
You think?
Look, Polly, it was lovely meeting you. What it's worth, it sounds like you were totally in the right. This particularly put a smile on his face.
You know, you're right. You're a good detective. You're a smart detective. You keep at it.
Naturally. At this point, a much more well-dressed man who looked oddly similar to Polly stepped in. It didn't take a detective to work out that this was Art Daysma, Polly's older brother.
Hello there. Laverna, was it? I apologize for my sibling. He's troubled. I hope he didn't cause a scene.
Oh, he was just lovely.
That's encouraging to hear. A nice change of pace. Subtle. At any rate, I'm frankly mortified by recent events. If you need any help, I'd be more than willing to give you my full support.
No, I'm afraid that's completely unnecessary. I hadn't meant this to be as harsh as it came across. Still hearing this, Art looked crestfallen. Before I could respond, however, I heard a chuckle. It appeared the head of the family had been listening in on this exchange.
Swing and a miss, Smarty, my boy. Hi, Odin. It appears this lady's a bit too wise for your usual butt-kissing.
Art's face crumpled even more.
I was just trying to make myself helpful. Look how that worked out for you.
Odin Daysma chuckled some more at his dejected son. I assure you both, I have this situation well under control. Of course, if you ever have any future troubles, I'd be happy to assist you in investigative matters. After this exchange,
I'd prefer not to.
Besides, I already have people for that sort of thing.
Laverna, if you're not getting anything out of this, I think this might be time to bail.
Seth was absolutely correct. He gave the group a meek bow, then proceeded to walk away. I wanted to search the area where the lights went out. The boiler room. I didn't know where that was. Could have asked Seth. Instead, I began to wander about the place. Was this the way to the boiler room? Hello, boiler room. Hello, boiler room. Nope, that's the way to the restrooms. What about this hallway? Aha. Got it in two. Not bad. This must be it. I entered the room confidently, and sure enough, it looked like a boiler room. The boiler room, I presume.
You could have just asked.
Seth, who had been following the whole time, sounded thoroughly unimpressed. Well, I wasn't doing it for him.
Whatever. You're right for what it's worth. The power outage or whatever happened here. That panel right there, in fact.
Pointed to a very obvious panel with switches and wires. It appeared to be vaguely burned, though by what I couldn't even tell. Are we aware of what happened?
No, I'm afraid that's awaiting further analysis. At the very least, we know that whatever caused the blackout is its origin is in this room. This isn't some power cable elsewhere being cut or something. The criminal was in this room.
My skill set, looking at the panel itself, wouldn't get me anywhere at all. Instead, I turned my attention elsewhere. Began to sweep the room, looking for any detail that might be of use. I was hoping for a dropped note, perhaps a string of a distinct color caught in a door handle. Nothing quite so obvious jumped out at me. Another familiar theme, but there was one thing of note. That's a window on that wall, is it not? Seth looked up to where I was pointing.
Yeah, that looks like a window to me. What, do you think somebody gotten in or out through there? Because, hate to tell you, I don't know if somebody's arm could get through there, much less somebody's body.
Seth exaggerated. There was definitely enough room for someone's arm. But he was right, it probably couldn't smuggle a person outside. But perhaps it didn't need to. I am simply filing it away.
No? What's this about?
You can't expect the whole truth to be apparent at present. Only when all the clues are revealed can such things be determined. So when evidence is relevant, yet directionless, I store it in a limbo state. It helps.
Oh, I've lost interest.
I didn't have a snappy comeback to this. Instead, I simply made my way back to the main venue with the rest of the guests. I had done enough venturing about. Something weird about the mystery text that Polly got that wasn't actually sent. When I returned, however, I saw quite a peculiar sight.
Lay off, dude. I don't know the first thing about what you're saying.
I just want to know why you did it. Were you a sleeper agent?
What?
Have you grown a deep resentment for your employer? This was your way of striking back.
Whoa, take it easy there, Baldera. What's going on here?
What's going on here is that I found our culprit.
What?
Magnificent, Baldera. Please, show us your reasoning. I'll do just that, thank you very much. See, it was something Lav said. Got me thinking that people were probably taking pictures, right? This place has a lot of old fogies, but even still, there are a couple of youngins addicted to social media. Asked around, and sure enough, this one daughter took some lovely selfies. Lovely selfies, I'll note, that took place right before the lights went out. You know that our culprit had to be in the boiler room to shut the lights off. So anyone caught in these pictures has an airtight alibi. I wasn't content ruling people out. No siree, I wanted blood. So I ruled the guest list against one of these pictures, trying to find who wasn't accounted for. And one person was mysteriously missing at the time. Secretary Gani.
Still a bit of a leap to a conclusion, but... And I'm telling you, I was just taking a shit. Nothing sketchy with that, you feel me?
Savor of somebody who'll buy your story.
I hate to say it, Secretary, but Baldera has a point. Doesn't look good for you.
But it doesn't look bad for you either. Lav? It was a valiant effort, Baldera. I admire the tenacity. To deliver a killing strike, you need more than that.
Oh boy.
The truth is rarely as clear to the observer as you expect it to be right here. I'm afraid your reasoning simply doesn't hold weight. All right, girl. You think I'm wrong? Bring it on. Prove me otherwise. It would be a privilege. Here, I'm going to lay out how Secretary Gani committed the murder. From the start, Athen was Gani's target. Secretary Gani went to the boiler room to turn off the lights. Then without any issue, he walked his way right on over to Mr. Athen. Huh. From the start, your entire argument was built upon a support structure of sand. That is to say, it can't hold its own weight. Pray tell, how exactly would the dear secretary make his way into Mr. Athen? As you said, it was pitch black dark. Unless you intend to label him a descendant of an owl. Sensible enough argument, I suppose, then this is a worthless path to walk. That's, well... Okay, gosh, you got me on that front. Gani might not be the direct killer, but he could easily be an accomplice. Think about it, Lav. I checked those pictures from social media. They occurred right before the blackout, so anybody in that picture couldn't have turned the lights off in the boiler room. Cross-referencing it with the guest list, well, there's just one name missing. If all the other guests are accounted for, then by golly, it's gotta be the secretary. Here's the heart of the matter. Perhaps we can eliminate the guests from suspicion. Perhaps. However, there's a whole subset of person that has evaded your memory, dearest Baldera. As they say, perhaps the butler did it. Butler? Well, I get why they're suspicious with the masks and all. But don't think I'm just some idiot, you hear? I already thought of that. You know, a total of 9 butlers were hired. Pictures show a group of 3 by the stage, and 4 of them about the main floor. That adds up to 7. If you had butler by the main entrance, and the butler in the kitchen, accounted for at the time of the blackout by the kitchen staff, that's 9. That should rule out all the butler types, right? Butler types, what a fitting title. True, 9 butlers were hired. However can you prove that only 9 donned the mantle of butler during the party? I think I can. So if there was someone who wanted to pretend to be some butler, or at least they could arrive was when the party when the party was getting set up. That's the earliest you can imagine. How limited your mind must be. For all we know, this butler, disguised betrayed the building far before preparations began. They hid beyond detection. Once the party began in earnest, they assimilated into their surroundings. Okay, maybe you could sneak in. Maybe you could sneak in like that or something. What about getting out? So the culprit was inside the building when the lights went out. Again, this is an assumption, Baldera. You know what they say about assumptions? They make an ass out of you and me. They make an ass out of us all in the end, when you think about it. No, I'm not wrong about this, Lav. Lights went out because the panel in the boiler room was messed with. It's an unshakable fact that you have to enter the boiler room to do that. And okay, maybe some device could mess with the panel. We didn't find anything like that in the dang boiler room. You'd have to be in the room to remove the device. Ah, that is the crux of your misconceptions, the root of all confusion. There's a small window in the boiler room. Depending on the flexibility of an entering arm, surely that could be a point with which to remove the device. Lav, you're killing me here. Okay, but what about the actual murder? Because Mr. Anthony definitely died during the blackout. He was killed with that poison rag. This is the Axis. Huh? I said, this is the Axis. What the fuck are you talking about, Lav? That face says. The Axis upon which our whole perception of this case shall swing. I'm not following you here. Ditto. See, there's a clear contradiction at the scene of the crime. It stood out to me from the very beginning. However, alone, it was like the rhythm of a single instrument. Only in concert with the rest of the track can I hear the murderer's symphony. This would usually be the point where Seth cut me down with a typical dismissive remark, but surprisingly, I maintained the floor. It appeared as though even he realized that I was on the brink of a big discovery. Look at the stain on the man's clothes. Made for wine with a light yellow color, if I had to guess. Now then, witness the spilled wine bottle by Athen himself. Dark red. Blood red. Clearly somebody else spilled their wine onto the man. Sure, okay. So? Have we tested the blood red wine for poison? A brief bout of silence. I mean, going to the lab just like the rag and a bunch of other forensic evidence. We'll know if it's the murder weapon soon enough. Poisoning specifically Mr. Athens' wine seems pretty difficult for a few reasons. Murder is a difficult business, Seth. If it wasn't, the assassin market wouldn't be so lucrative. We wouldn't be so casually rude to our coworkers as we tend to be. With the proper preparations, anything is possible. It's simply a matter of being thorough. Lav, it'd help if we had a clue about what you were talking about right now. Must admit, this part of my job was a lot of fun. Here we have the detective, right about to lay out some grand deduction. Haven't you gotten such a deal? You paid for the whole seat, but you've only used the edge. You didn't pay anything if you don't actually have a seat, but I think I made my point. Some great truth is about to be spoken. So, what is it? Well, come on, I'm waiting. Oh, you didn't think you'd just get to sit around and let Laverna do all the heavy lifting, don't you? No, non contraire, you have to help Laverna out. Means you don't really, this all has already happened. But still, I figured this would be a good spot to inject some interaction on your part. Everyone wants to be a detective, right? I'm sure you do. So come on, let's engage in a linguistic journey. Even show you how it's done, so you don't get too cranky. Watch. Oh boy. Alrighty, deductions are less about figuring out what happened. Laverna will usually already know, more or less. It's more about how to say it. Presentation is everything for someone in her line of work. This means stringing together a great proclamation by alternating from prepositions or conjunctions to statements of fact, to until you have a coherent and correct train of thought. Right now we can only see our conjunctions, if and then. Unfortunately, we need to proceed a bit before seeing the statements. Touch inconvenient, but it is how it is. Don't worry, we'll have the opportunity to go back to the start at any point before attempting to actually submit our deduction. It's not a bad practice to just go with your gut and make some selections, get a feel for what you're working with. We're going back to the start and making a real attempt. Luckily, it seems like we're forming a very simple deduction. To imagine if will go first. Let's just select that. Great. Now we can just proceed. Okay, now we see the full scope of things. You'll always get all the conjunctions and statements you'll be working with from the start, which is nice. Downside, you have to use all the conjunctions you will get. Anyways, I'm actually just going to... Okay. Yeah, I avoided that little tutorial section prematurely. It seemed a bit basic. You get it right. It's not a super difficult concept.
Yeah, totally.
Did you just say lie out loud? Oh dear, that's not a good sign. I'm going to check that out, make sure this thing isn't having any unfortunate side effects on you. Oh, sorry, I should finish with this first. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, deduction tutorial, right. You said you understood it, I recall. Great, let's move on. I'm going to give you a pro tip, though. I'm a real stickler for grammar. I don't like people who don't talk good. Please, if you're trying to say something, be precise in your phrasing. Say it as grammatically correct as possible. I'll try and work with you as much as possible. If you're just mindful on your part, it'll make it easier on both of us. Oh, but don't misunderstand me. I won't be pleased by just any flaccid deduction that's syntactically coherent. Making valid sentences is a prerequisite for most humans. Looking for actually correct deductions, okay? If what you say contradicts the facts, you're barking up the wrong tree. Okay, let's just get to it. Oh, I almost forgot. Difficulty, I was going to have difficulty options. Right, what say you? How confident do you feel about all this? No need to puff out your chest. I think we'll make this the best for you.
I see hard, I choose hard.
A camber of principle, I see. Very well then, your funeral. Deduct or die, syntax champ. I'll give you the, let's call it 7 chips for each time you finish one of these deductions. Oh, but if you make an incorrect deduction, I'm taking a chip off of that reward. Give you another pro tip. When you're about to submit your last statement, hit the back button instead. And go through your deduction aloud. Make sure it feels good on the mouth. Or don't, I don't give a shit. It's your chips and I've babied you enough at this point. You're on hard for Pete's sake. Really hate it, there'll be a button to skip. It's time for you to learn in the best way, by doing. Oh boy. Here we go. Oh, okay. If killer was disguised the butler, then killer is hiding in the building, and okay. That is not the answer I wanted. If there are currently only 9 butlers present, and the killer was disguised as a butler, then killer left before the lights went out, or if there are only 9 butlers present and the killer was disguised as a butler, then the killer left before the lights went out, or the killer is hiding in the building. If there are only currently only 9 butlers present, and the killer was disguised as a butler. Then, the killer left before the lights went out. Or, the killer is hiding in the building. Yeah! 7 chips. Alright. We're gonna save this deduction for next video, though. Survived our first minigame on hard mode, too. We won 7 chips. So until next time, though, until then, we will continue. As if to confirm that this game is meant to be played straight through, without backtracking and without save scumming. We don't even get a load option. We just get put right back to the startup screen with easy staring back at us, waiting for us to start. Welcome back to the Divine Deception. Welcome back to the game. And when we hit start, loads our save. Which, where we left off, we had our first deduction segment with Laverna, which was relatively simple, but very interesting. Seems like we'll be constructing an interesting selection of statements when making deductions. But I'm intrigued. Now, time to present our deduction, shall we? Okay then, the simplest way to teach is to demonstrate. I grabbed Secretary Gani's arm and pulled him next to the corpse. You, sir, you shall play the part of the victim. Alright, neat. Do I need to, do something? Unnecessary. Simply act according to my commands. Sick. Next, I ran to the nearby waiter who had been guarding the door. Ripped the mask off his face and put it on mine. Ow! Thank you. Oh, here we go. Is the mask necessary? I like masks. That's not what I asked. Just hush, Seth. She's saving our asses right now. Correction, she's saving your ass. I am saving the victim's spirit's ass by helping pursue his murderer. Now to begin the tragedy. I am a waiter. I have a meaningless existence, doomed to be forgotten, to die unloved. Do-do-do. Hey! I mimic typical waiter emotions. Very good. Except, that is just a facade. I'm not a waiter at all. Correct. Your head case. Voltaire, the kind soul she is, stopped on Seth's foot for me. My plan starts by planting a most foul device in the boiler room. Begin running over to the boiler room. Hey, wait up! Here I am, planning the device. Beep, beep, beep. I mimic placing a bomb on the panel. Next, I make my way back to the party. Right as Seth was catching up to Boldera, I turned 180 degrees and fled the room. Oh god, what was the point of this? Soon enough, we stood back next to the would-be victim. Now, question for the class. What is the identity of our murderer? How should we know? I'm not seeking a name, merely an occupation. Waiter? Assassin. What about a magician? It appears the secretary is most fitting for the title, detective. No, I'm actually happy with my job. A man of conviction, I like it. Yes, what happens next is an act of sleight of hand. The faux waiter bumps into Athen, spilling some wine on him. And with this opportunity, he does 3 things. He poisons the man's wine. He plants the rag in Athen's front pocket. He drops the crumpled up psalm on the floor near Athen's table. Mimic doing all 3 to Secretary Gani. Up until now, I had Baldera and Seth's attention. However, at this stage, Seth raises an eyebrow. Seriously, you don't think that's a little too much? Yes, it is. Murder also seems a tad too far, but we can't judge others by our own standards. Now, this next piece is key. Right after this interaction, the faux waiter makes his exit from the party. And when outside, he presses the activation device of his EMP, plunging the venue into darkness. It is in this darkness that the effects of the poisoned wine take hold of Mr. Athen, and dropping him to the floor as though he were a mere puppet. The killer collects the damning evidence from the boiler room window with incredible flexibility, and like that, the situation is handled. Voila! Murder in 3 acts. With this, I took a grand bow. Secretary Ganny clapped earnestly. Secretary Ganny is a mark. Baldera and Seth were less impressed. Now, wait a minute, what were the 3 acts?
Laverna, sweetie, this was a very nice story. But come on, really?
You are doubting me, sir.
Actually, I think I am.
Well then, have at you. Prove me wrong, if you can.
Okay, then.
Seth walked over to the waiter standing by the exit.
Did another waiter exit the venue right before the lights went off? Huh?
Oh yeah. The guy said he was taking a smoke break.
Oh? That's, huh.
I bowed once more. Point proven. I got another bout of applause from Secretary Ganny.
Well, that's, a slice of humble pie for me. I'm really not good at my job, am I?
You're reliable in your own way, it seems like.
Why am I here?
Oh, come off it, Seth. Any good detective needs an adequate foil. Yeah, you're here to keep us grounded, and that's okay. You seem like Seth seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. It's a clash of 2 equal and opposite forces that creates progress.
That doesn't sound right to me, but I don't have it in me to argue with you again.
But wait a gosh darn minute! You! Baldera turned angrily towards the masked waiter, raising an accusatory finger. This is some incredibly relevant testimony. Why didn't you say anything up until now? I clucked dismissively. Tisk, Baldera, I thought you smarter than this. Isn't it obvious? Because we didn't ask.
I seriously can't believe that we're relying on her for all people.
Lav, I can't... Words seem to evade Baldera. I tended to have that effect on her. Why are you defending him? Whose side are you on? The truth side. And you see, the truth has no sides. in a weird way, in the course of this scene, started out... Baldera came off as very nice, very kind, very genuine and approachable. And Seth was the old spoil sport. I've somehow they've both flip-flopped in my mind, and I genuinely like Seth more than Baldera right now. It is a sphere of pure idealized history that we all must covet. It's slippery, so the only way to grab a hold of it is if we all work together, pushing it to the center from all angles.
Yeah, okay, I think we've wasted enough time with Baldera's typical hysterics. We don't need to waste any more on your conceptual geometry lessons on truth. Which, for the record, is undercut by the fact that you started your lecture by saying that you're on truth's side before proceeding to say it doesn't have a side.
Ah, I see where you can get confused with that. To explain.
No, I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. I don't care.
I just didn't think it was important. So... Does this mean we're chill now? Am I not going to jail now? Oh! Well, yeah, you're free to go. So sorry for the inconvenience, really. I feel pretty awful about how this whole thing shook out. I mean, given what you knew, it was a reasonable theory. You pursued it very aggressively, but without trying to back it up, but From the beginning, it was a reasonable theory. Hey, it's no biggie. Really? Yeah, dude, we all mess up. I know I've screwed the pooch a fair share of times myself. Oh, well, good to hear.
Well, you lucky bolt there. If you went for Laverna, you could have gotten in a whole heap of trouble. I mean, accusing the governor's secretary. If you took him in for an arrest, that would have been another PR fiasco.
Well, you know, I was the one who brought Laverna. So in some ways, I'm kind of responsible for reaching the eventual truth, right? Speaking of Lav, I can't thank you enough for this. I require no thanks. Merely pray. Well, you're gonna get a whole lot of both from me. Way to help a girl out. And, oh, so the thing to take away from this event was that you didn't come out looking unfavorable? Hi, boss. Miss Aisha, ma'am. Oh, there, I jumped to attention. What are you doing here? Ah, well, there was a little incident in regards to my secretary. Oh, right, look, I'm really sorry about that. All is forgiven. I'm not the type to hold on to grudges. Really? Of course. I'm the type to use them later for personal gain. Look, I relate to you. I've made mistakes in my past. My distant past. A far period of time from now. And minor ones which don't speak ill to any significant degree on my character. None that can be backed up without a deep dive into my personal history, and one that will that can be very easily shoved into a corner and dismissed. My point is, I believe in second chances and the people. And I believe in forgiveness. Why, that's why I've given the most gubernatorial pardons of any of Panthea's governors throughout history. So simply look to the future. Of course, ma'am. Now to the matter at hand. Aisha turned to me. To most, her stare down would be, at the very least, slightly unnerving. Not so for me. I knew better. Hello there, Governor. Funny how we keep running into each other in this place. Oh. Yes, humor. Anyways, I actually came over here to speak with you. It appears I misjudged you. I get that a lot. I can believe it. Perhaps more of an introduction is in order, then. You moved to Panthea not too long ago, no? Where did you live before then? A place less in need of my skills than here. Well, that narrows it down quite a bit, doesn't it? If only. Still, to move here in particular, I have to imagine there's some reason for it. What about relatives? What's your family situation like? It's not unlike many others. Why aren't you quite the mysterious lady? I like to think it increases the intrigue. Professional question dodger, Laverna. It certainly does. You said you were a private investigator. Have you any interest in being hired onto my staff? This whole experience has certainly served an impressive interview. And there are plenty of matters I'd appreciate investigated. Truly a flattering offer. I must bow to it. However, I'm not sure the cases you'd like me to take on are the ones I want to take on. I'm content at the place I'm working at. Is that so? I imagine pay wouldn't be a factor that could change that decision. The only pay I require is the payment of justice. Well then. At the very least, since you've been working in conjunction with the police so much, I imagine it might be prudent to become an officer yourself. Surely that would help things, at least from a logistical standpoint. If you like, I could put in a good word for you with Ariane. Again, I must reject your humble offer. I prefer not to shackle myself to one client at present. Is that right? You're quite an interesting character, Miss Laverna. I don't think I'll forget you. Is that a good thing? Few do. I can imagine. Genny, come. This Governor Aisha is a very intriguing character at first glance. Just how trustworthy is she actually? Very, completely nailing the public face of a politician alongside ulterior motives, let's say. I'm very intrigued. And like that, Aisha turned around and walked away with her secretary in tow. She had been quite diplomatic through most of our conversation. One of the reasons I was good at my job was because I could read people. But as she turned around, I could see a stern expression forming on her face. I could imagine that Aisha didn't necessarily leave with a great impression of Laverna. Oh well, it can't be helped.
You two done with damage control.
Damage control?
That not what that was? Because, if it wasn't, that's what it should have been. Anyway, I've been thinking some more on Laverna's explanation. Let's say it's right for the most part. Why?
Why? Why is it right? It is right because I based my deductions on... No, you're talking about why go through that.
No, not that. It's clear a lot of effort was put into making it look like the culprit was somebody in the party.
Seth was right. When he looked at the killer's timeline objectively, a lot of unnecessary effort was put into the kill. Most of it could be explained if you assumed they really wanted to make it look like the killer was still inside the building. We would have come to the right conclusion eventually. I don't know about that. I mean, Lev, you really helped me out right there. When forensics came back with the poison in the wine, we collected more through testimonies from everyone involved. When we couldn't find any traces of the poison hidden inside the venue, sure as the day shines, we would eventually got it right. Oh, ye of much faith.
As tempting as it is to take some more pot shots at this force, Boldera is right. It's a lot of effort for a temporary stopgap. Why?
It was a really solid point. There's been some good reason for why the murderer did what they did. See, I don't know if you're right, Seth. I feel like... based on how quickly you were settling in on the secretary, it's very likely you could have... if you had narrowed in on a culprit and Laverna wasn't here, I feel like there was a very good chance they could have just... got a culprit, and then put the case to bed, forcefully. Just like what happened in another game where we heard this music play. There's been some good reason for why the murderer did what they did. A plan this elaborate wasn't constructed haphazardly. But truly, there can only be a single explanation. Culprits sought to buy which all humans yearn for. Time. There is some critical piece of evidence that would slip from our fingers had we focused our suspicions on those within the oversized coffin. That is the true purpose of this grand deception. This divine deception.
Alright, little Miss Genius, then what's this evidence that's slipping from us right now? Because, from your description, I don't think there's anything like that.
Hey, Seth's right.
No one can act so surprised with that with your track record.
What evidence could we be missing, Lamp? Huh. Is the answer to that astoundingly obvious? No. Exactly. In which case, why would you presume that I would know that? That's, fair enough, I suppose.
It really isn't.
Fact of the matter is, I was stumped on that just like I was stumped on a number of things. However, I'd have time to be stumped later. For now, there was something far more urgent taking up my attention. Entering the venue, quite late to the party, was Chief Ariane, head of Panthea's police department. Instantly, all the other officers stood to attention. An odd, almost archaic show of deference, I thought. I didn't feel the need to go along with it. What did Ariane by the look of things? She waved her hand dismissively, calling it off. I wonder, was that because she was currently in the public eye? Immediately, she approached me. Oh, Laverna. Ariane, what brings you here? I am the Chief of Police, Laverna. Make it a habit to join in all major investigations. The only reason it took me this long to arrive was because I was busy on the other side of the city when I got the report.
I believe that was a rhetorical question, Chief.
Was it? Apologies then for the redundant answer. No need. Redundant answer is practically my middle name.
Hey, she's self-aware.
That is quite an unwieldy middle name.
I believe she was being hyperbolic.
And I was being sarcastic, Mr. Johnson?
No. Apologies, it's sometimes hard to tell with you, ma'am.
I am aware. Verna, I do not suppose you would enlighten me as to your presence here. Isn't it obvious? Wherever there is justice, I appear. I was seeking a more literal answer. Instead of asking me again, Ariane scanned the room. Before long, her gaze landed on Baldera. I presume Laverna's presence was your doing, Miss Vasquez. You got me dead to rights, Chief. Just thought a little extra help couldn't hurt, you know? It couldn't. Well then, is that what Laverna provided? Extra help? Aside could try and help, Pandora pitched in. Totally, Chief. Bringing Laverna was a great idea. I mean, if she wasn't here, Baldera totally would have arrested Governor Aisha's secretary for the murder. Pandora! That would have been a total scandal. It's a good thing Laverna was here. At this, Ariana raised a single eyebrow. Pandora just going to town on all the hot gossip. Is that right? Baldera gave Pandora a dirtier look than I thought her capable of. It is. Thanks for the report, Pandora. Ariane briefly regarded me. Well, then I suppose that performance is worthy of brief praise. You have my thanks for saving my subordinates from undue embarrassment. The pleasure was mine, Chief. Chief? You have an issue with it? Not particularly. Just only my men call me Chief. Well, when I'm helping out with one of your crime scenes, you can consider me as one of your men. Ariane looked me over, as though she was reassessing me somewhat. As expected, this was the right tack with her. Very well then, I shall do just that. Ariane turned back to face the group as a whole. To be honest, one question rises above all the others in my mind. Yes? Why exactly have you all allowed a reporter free access to a crime scene, while not even bothering to cordon it off? For a moment, nobody knew exactly how to respond to this. Finally, Seth spoke up, albeit extremely hesitantly.
I'm sorry, Chief. I'm afraid I don't understand what you're referring to.
Ariane sighed. That is exactly my issue, Mr. Johnson. When I finally arrived at the site, I was greeted with the most troubling sight. To the side of this building, I saw that slimy reporter, Kane. And he was having a field day taking photographs of a corpse. What? Again, it took a brief moment for everyone to comprehend exactly what Ariane was telling us. What? Then in an instant, the room became electric. Before anyone could say anything, however, Ariane spoke up. Now that she was here, we were under her orders. Pandora, you make sure none of the guests or the staff exit the building. Everyone else, follow me. She didn't need to speak twice. Personally, I felt like tripping over myself trying to rush to the scene. Exiting the gaudy building back into the dark night filled with the sounds of bugs and animals was as much a departure as it was entering the building in the first place. A death in that well-to-do party felt like an anachronism. A death here felt right at home. We followed Ariane, who circled around the west side of the building. Turning the corner, I quickly saw what she was talking about. Further down the building, there was a section faintly lit up by a spare light left on attached to the building. You could see Kane merrily taking more pictures from more angles. Doubtless he'd already gotten enough. But having unquestionably already encountered Ariane, he must have known his time unaccompanied with the body was coming to an end. When he heard the oncoming posse, he put his arms up and slowly backed away from the body. I could plainly see a smirk plastered upon his face. He was cackling on the inside about the situation. He unquestionably found it hilarious. I I also sort of found it a bit funny, but of course there was not a chance in hell I'd say that out loud. Some of the officers immediately began cordoning off the area, taking their own pictures of the scene. A medical-looking officer began inspecting the body close up. That would likely take quite a bit of time. For now, there's no need to concern myself with the body itself. There was another person much more willing to answer questions within arm's reach. Kane? Speak. Whoa, easy there. No need for the harsh stares, Sherlock. I think it's appropriate right now, buddy. Tell us what you know. Huh. How the tables turn in such little time. What brilliant fucking irony. Before you were acting all high and mighty, you weren't willing to give me an interview. It looks like now you are looking for an interview from me. How about that? Is really how you're planning on playing this? Thought you were smarter than that. If you would recall accurately, a challenge for you, I'm aware, you would know that I did agree to an interview. I simply asked to delay it until I saw the crime scene myself. Alright, relax. I'm just having a bit of fun. What can I say? I like flexing some power when I have it. Real admirable trait, that. You know, I should be getting thanked right now. I found a dead body. And you reported it to the authorities immediately like a good citizen. Okay, you got me there. Your conduct on this is bordering on a felony. Take it easy, I was just doing my due diligence as a journalist. Really, anyone in my position would do the same thing. Well, I suggest you start talking now, because as it stands, you're at the top of the suspects list. Is this chick serious? Kane looked between Seth and me. After clearly not getting the support he expected, shook his head. Ah, shit. Alright, here's the scoop, unfiltered. Really, it was a coincidence more than anything. You guys kept me out of the scene, so I got antsy just standing outside in the cold. Began to pace the building's perimeter just to clear my mind. Soon enough, I stumbled across that scene over there. I knew that was a grade A chance, so I got up my camera and began doing my thing. And after that, your boss came and started chewing my ass out. Like, seriously, that broad really needs to learn some basic time efficiency. Got the point in the first minute, didn't need the next 9. And that's it. Didn't touch the body, didn't alter the scene, didn't do anything like that. That's it. That's your story. That's the truth, and you should take it to heart. And while you're at it, maybe ask yourself why you and your little buddies didn't find this before I did. That's just shoddy work right there, plain and simple. I hate to admit, I agreed with Kane on this one. The fact that none of the officers had bothered to canvass the scene at large up until this point was sort of embarrassing. Yeah. Man's got a point. Man has got a point. Like in this instance, they were so focused on the inside of the event hall. Well, it seems like a fairly big event hall, but still out here in the woods. I noticed Chief Ariane gesturing for us to join her next to the body. We're going to have more questions for you. Oh, I'm sure. Kane's self-assured smirk got under my skin, but I couldn't dwell. Instead, I walked with Seth and Baldera up to the corpse. The other officers had spread out a bit, so we finally could do some investigations. You have the floor. Do your preliminary investigation. She held a flashlight up to the body, and for the first time I got a good look at the guy. He had collapsed on his side, and unlike the first victim, this guy's cause of death was pretty apparent. The back of his head was awfully bloody. Looking closely, I saw flecks of... Was that bone? Gross. This guy was far younger than Mr. Anthony. Much older than myself, as a matter of fact. He was dressed up, though. He was dressed up, though not to the extent that many of the other guests had been dressed up, too. He could have fit in at that gala, but his wardrobe would have been mocked by some of the more judgmental guests. Is this our fake waiter?
An idea who this poor bloke is?
Maximilian Collins. Oh! Valdera said this with an odd chill in her voice. Unfamiliar with the name, both Seth and I turned to Valdera, questioning. At this, Valdera got flustered, as though she needed to justify herself. The nephew of Veronica Collins. You're the CEO of some shipping company, I think, and friends with Odin Daisma. Deceased by the sound of things. Valdera just nodded.
So then, you suppose this guy was on the guest list for this gala?
Well, it could definitely be possible. I'd have to check. At the very least, if he was supposed to show up, he didn't. I'd have known if anyone who entered the building left. Took out a flashlight of my own and began looking around in the grass where the body lay. Noticed 3 cigarettes, each burned to a nub and crushed. Had he been waiting here for a time? Waiting for someone? The discovery was nothing compared to what I found next. Lying in the grass, covered in blood, a single bronze bell lay.
That's...
Who will toll the bell? I, said the bull, because I can pull. I'll toll the bell. I had to keep myself from grinning. This was getting interesting. Ah, I love a good whodunit. Of course, usually you get to, I don't know whodunit? But we'll probably get an answer soon enough. What really ties a mystery together is the detective. And folk, we got ourselves a wacky one. Certainly eccentric. I wonder why so many detectives are wacky. I suppose it's a wacky profession to go into in the first place. Home to the justice-obsessed and the habitual narcissists. You have to be a degree of both to do what a detective does and feel like a good person. Guess why if you're not a wacky detective, you're likely a depressed detective. Inside of you there are two detectives. One is wacky, one is depressed. Or both. Maybe detectives are wacky because criminals are wacky, and to cut someone out of your mind. You have to think like them. Out of their mind, you have to think like them. To be out of your mind yourself. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't actually mean anything or make any sense, but it sure sounds like it does. Whatever the case, Laverna sure seems a lot less wacky in her head. Boring. If you're wacky in your actions but not wacky in your thoughts, you can't be true wacky. You're just eccentric. Yeah, putting on an eccentric front. Let's move on. I fear as if I say the word wacky one more time, it'll lose all meaning. Whoops, I just did. Now the word is meaningless. The arrogance of humanity. Let's talk about the victim. Or victims. Love me a double kill. Killing more than one person at a time has always been a bit weird to me. Makes sense though, I suppose. If you're already dipping your toes into the murder waters, might as well get your hair wet. Say, who do you think bit the bullet first? Athen or Max? Now isn't that a fun question? Why don't we bet on it? Oh boy. Oh, and it'll be fun. You can pretend to be a detective yourself. What do you say? You think Athen died first? Or Max? Oh boy. Now that is a question.